Hi, welcome back. Today, we'll be looking at a shift in the supply curve. As a seller, your best options depend on many factors beyond the price of the good that you're selling. When any of these other factors change apart from the price of a good, so might your supply decisions. When this happens, the supply curve itself moves. This is called a shift in the supply curve. Now let's look at two examples of a shift in the supply curve. Our first example is an increase in supply. Assuming we start from a supply curve, which we can call an old supply curve. If any factor changes in the market apart from the change in the price of a good, that causes the supplier to increase the supply of this good, this will move the supply curve to the right onto a new curve which we can call new supply curve. Alternatively, if we start from a supply curve which we call old supply curve, and any market factor changes apart from the price of a good that causes the supplier to decrease the supply of the good, it will shift the supply curve to the left onto a new curve which we can call new supply curve. So what we see here is that an increase in supply shifts the supply curve to the right, implying that higher quantity is supplied at each price. However, a decrease in supply shifts the supply curve to the left, implying that lower quantity is supplied at each price. Now let's look at the factors that shift the supply curve. The first factor that shifts the supply curve is input price. Now, as a seller, your supply curve represents your marginal cost curve. So any factor that changes your marginal cost will shift your supply curve. If a factor changes your marginal cost and increases it, for instance, if any market factor increases your marginal cost, then your supply curve is going to shift to the left, which will represent a decrease in supply. If any market factor reduces your marginal cost of production, this will increase your supply, which will shift your supply curve to the right. Now, when input prices increase, or to say when your supplier increases the price of your input, they increase your marginal cost of producing your good, which will shift your supply curve to the left. For instance, if the cost of labor increases, assuming you are a farmer who is producing apples and you use labor to produce apples, if the cost of labor increases, this represents an increase in your input price, which is also going to affect your cost of production. This will translate into a decrease in supply. And if your input prices decreases, for instance, if wages are reduced, this will translate as a reduction in your marginal cost or a reduction in your cost of production, which is going to increase your supply and shift it to the right. The next factor that shifts the supply curve is productivity and technology. When there are improvements in production technology, it often means that firms can produce goods or services more efficiently. This could be due to a variety of factors such as introduction of automation, better machines, or more effective production processes. As a result, the cost of production decreases. When the cost of production decreases, firms are able to supply more at each price level, leading to an outward shift of the supply curve. This is because at lower cost, firms can increase their profit margins even if they sell at the same price, or they can choose to lower their prices to increase market share, both of which will increase the quantity supplied. The third factor that shift the supply curve is suppliers' expectation. Expectations of future prices can cause the supply curve to shift. If producers expect the price of their good or service to increase in the future, they may decrease their current supply to sell more in the future when prices are higher. This could cause the supply curve to shift to the left. Conversely, if producers expect future prices to decrease, they may increase their current supply to sell more before the prices fall, causing the supply curve to shift to the right. The final factor that shifts the supply curve is the number of suppliers. The supply curve for any industry, such as apples in this case, include all the sellers in the industry. A change in the number of sellers in that industry changes the quantity available at each price and thus changes supply. An increase in the number of sellers supplying a good or service shifts the supply curve to the right. A reduction in the number of sellers shifts the supply curve to the left. This is all for our lesson on shift in the supply curve. Our next lesson will be on shift in the supply curve versus movement along the supply curve. If you enjoyed today's lesson, consider subscribing. Thank you.